Welcome to Poker Vlog number 17. I wasn't planning on filming today, but they just opened the 2-5 and it looks amazing. There's a lot of action players, so it's very promising. So yeah, not much more to say with that. Let's just jump right in, buy them for $1,000 and get to the hands. We head into the poker room and sit down in the 2-5 table that's just opening, buy him for $1,000. And the player across from us, he is the action player. He doesn't play often, but when he does, it's always good news because he is a lot of action and a very nice guy. So he likes to play a lot. So most of the hands of this vlog is going to be against him. So with that said, let's jump right into the first hand. The straddle is going to be going on a lot. So this vlog is half 2-5, half 2-5-10. And the straddle is going on for this first one, but in the button, when we look down at pocket sevens and under the gun, I make it $35 and get under the gun 2, hijack, and the button. That's the action player to call. So 4 ways to a flop. Flop comes ace 3-3. So yeah, so multi-way. All I'm doing here is checking. That's what I do. It checks to the button and he bets $35. And yeah, he's the action player. I think he could be doing this with basically everything, but with 2 players left to talk after me, that definitely could have an ace or maybe even a slow played 3. Yeah, I just fold. The other players fold as well. So action player takes down this first hand. Let's see if we can do better with pocket queens in a small blind. Under the gun 2, action player makes it 20, folds to me, and I 3-bet to 80, and he calls. So heads up to a flop. Flop comes 9, 10, 5, so pretty draw heavy. I decided to check, especially because it's this player. I felt like if I check to him, he'll be very aggressive. And as well in pocket controlling, since he could have a lot of sets and 9, 10s there as well. I am risking that there's a bad turn if he checks back an ace, a king, or if the flush draw, straight draw comes in. But as I said, he's fairly aggressive, so I wouldn't be surprised if he starts betting with all of his draws. But yeah, in the moment, I do decide to do that, and he checks back. Turn is a 9. That definitely could have some of those, but I wouldn't be surprised if he does bet the flop with some of his 9s. And I wouldn't have hate checking again here, since maybe he just has absolutely nothing, and checking twice, he does start bluffing. But yeah, I don't hate what I did in the moment either. That's betting, since I didn't want to start losing value. And after checking the flop, maybe calls a turn light, which is overcards, ace, a king. Or maybe he had a draw that just didn't decide to bluff on the flop. So yeah, I bet $80 and he folds. All right, let's play a bigger pot with pocket kings and under the gun 1. I make it $15 and see the beautiful news when the action player in the cutoff 3-bets us to 60. That is 4x, definitely on the bigger side. It folds to the big blind that cold calls, and yeah, always 4-betting here, especially against this player that could be decently wide. I make it $240 and only the action player calls. So heads up to a flop. Flop comes 5, 6, 3. That definitely could be scary, but this is a 4-bet pot. So if he hit 2 pair or set calling my 4-bet, God bless him, he's getting all of my money for how big the pot is now compared to our stack and against this player. So I c-bet, I make it $175 and see the good news when he calls. Turn is a 7. That shouldn't change too much. It brings in straights. He shouldn't have any. The only thing I may be worried about if he got really sticky and has 6, 7 and pocket 7s, and this player could be, but we just have less than pot behind, so I'm not going to worry about that. I'm not going to check and give a free card just in case he has a draw or he checks back a pocket pair that's below mine. That is a lot of them, 8, 9, 10 jacks. So I go all in and he does end up folding. So we take down this pretty nice pot. Let's move on to the next. Straddle is back on. We looked on an ace queen off in the cutoff. Under the 2 limp, so I'm gonna get $40 and only he calls. So heads up to a flop. Flop is pretty bad. 8, 6, 7. So with absolutely nothing going on, they're in a backdoor flush draw on this board that definitely could connect pretty well against the limper. When he checks, I check back. Turn is a deuce. He checks, and after checking the flop, I don't think it makes too much sense betting this turn. And he checked twice, so I think my ace may be good a decent amount of the time, so I don't think I need to turn into a bluff, and especially not on this board. I feel if I bet here, I'd definitely be over bluffing, so I check back. River is a jack. That's not the best, since now we're losing against a lot of hands that we're just checking down. He checks again, and yeah, maybe we could try to represent a jack just in case he flop bottom pair, middle pair, but I really don't know if he's going to be even folding those. I probably have to make it really big. So I still think that my ace may be good. So I check back, and it is not, since he has pocket 4s and he takes it down. Button straddle is going on for this one. When we're in a big line with king 9 off, it folds to us. And yeah, I do not know exactly what's the proper raising range here or calling, since this spot is pretty rare. But in the moment, the button is a decent action player. He actually watches the vlogs. That's what he said. So if he's watching this, shout out to him. Thanks for watching. So yeah, I felt like his calling range in this spot, our hand we're doing pretty good against. So I do raise it to $30 and he calls. Flop comes 10, 3, 7, so definitely not the best. Yeah, we have some backdoor straight draws, but I'd definitely prefer to have at least a diamond to construct the bluff here. So in a moment, I do decide to check and see the good news when he checks back. Turn is beautiful. It's a king, so now we have top pair. Let's get some value. I bet $30, and he does call. River's pretty bad. It's an 8. That brings in the flush, brings in some straight draws and 2 pairs. So yeah, not what I was hoping for. But in the moment, I decided to put out a blocker bet. I felt like there's still a decent amount of hands that we get value from. And if he does raise, I could pretty easily fold. Yeah, maybe he will take my small bet as weakness and try to bluff, but I didn't think that would happen too often. So that's what I do, and he does raise. He makes it 150, and yeah, on that river, I'm not calling. I do fold, so good for you, sir. If that was a bluff, he takes it down. Now we're in a small blind with ace queen off. There's 3 limpers, and a low jack makes it 30, pretty aggressive reg. I call, limpers call, so 5 ways to a flop. Flop comes pretty great, queen 8-8, so 2 pair, best kicker. It takes the low jack, he see bet for $25. That is super small. And yeah, maybe heads up I consider raising against such a small bet, but with 3 players left to talk after me, that definitely could have an 8. I call, limpers fold, so heads up to a turn. Turn is a 3, I check, and he checks back. River is a 7, and I decided to bet big here. I make it $250, that's bigger than the size of the pot. My thought process was, if betting big here, I'm basically saying I have an 8 or nothing. That's not the case since I have ace queen, but I feel like I'm beating all of the hands are going to be calling. I don't think he's playing overpairs like this that often. I feel like most likely I'm just targeting worse queens that I think will have a decently hard time folding because he played it pretty passively, very weak. Just seems like he was trying to get the showdown, so multi-way. So after betting so small on the flop, I feel like I'd be calling pretty wide, and then checking the turn, I just feel like I could end up on this river with a decent amount of bluffs that he's just going to have to call with top pair. So with that in mind, that's what I do. $250 it is. He goes into the tank and sadly does end up folding, and we take it down. Now we're going to cut off with queen jack suited. Under than 2 makes it $30. It folds to us, and definitely I'd consider 3-betting here. But he made it 6x, that is very big, and I wasn't sure with this player if he has different sizes depending on the strength of his hand. A decent amount of times I see it more often than you expect. Just players bet bigger with strong hands. So not being sure if that's what this player was doing, I do decide to call. Everybody else folds, so heads up to a flop. Flop comes 3-8-4. He checks, and we got a backdoor flush draw, backdoor straight draw on 2 overcards. So I think it's pretty good to try to get some aces and kings to fold. So on a dry board, I don't think I have to make it too big. I make $20, and he does call. Turn is a 6. He checks, and when I bet small on the flop, I think he will be calling with a lot of ace and king highs that if I bet bigger on the turn, will start to fold. And I was thinking that the bigger size would more likely be a stronger hand like ace king, ace queen, ace jack suited, maybe king queen. So trying to get those to fold, I make it $60 and see the bad news when once again he calls. River is a 5. That's pretty interesting since now there's a 4-liner. Any deuce or 7 is a straight, and I definitely think I have more 7s than him the way he played this hand. But I can't even have the chance to bluff since he leads out for $120 that I was pretty surprised. I wasn't expecting him to have too many 7s in this spot. But yeah, against the lead, I just don't think people bluff too many times playing this way. I don't want to try to raise here. I don't expect it to work too many times. So I do end up folding, and once again, the fellow vlog viewer takes down the pot. All right, let's play poker in easy mode. We got pocket aces, and it gets even better since there's a button straddle. I make it $40 and get the big blind and button to call. Button being an action player, so 3 ways to a flop. Flop comes king 4-6, so good thing we have the ace of spades, so we have 2 overcards and a nut flush draw. When it's next to me on a monotone board, I think a smaller bet is what makes sense, so I make it $40. Button calls, big blind folds, so heads up to a turn. Turn is a jack of spades, so we have the nuts. And I decided to check here again because it's this player. If I bet, I don't think I'm going to get 2-3 streets of value. And if I check, I definitely think he could be barreling with worse flushes. And if he called light on a flop, I definitely think he'll turn his hand into a bluff. So that's what I do, and see the good news when he bets, but just 60, that's definitely on a smaller size, but I'm never raising here. If I raise, I think it's just obviously the nuts, so I call. River is a 10, I check and see the good news when once again he bets, but again on a smaller side, $160. And he just has 250 behind, so I'm hoping, even though we look super strong jamming here, it's pretty obvious we have the ace. For such a good price, maybe he'll call with a worse flush. So that's what we do. We go all in, but as expected, he does end up folding and we take it down. Sadly, we get a downgrade in the next hand. Pocket kings and under than 2. Button straddle is going on once again, so I make it $40 and get the cutoff, big blind, and button a call. So 4 ways to a flop. Flop comes queen 6-9, so pretty good. Not too many hands that are beating us. Queen 9, pocket 6s, pocket 9s. I don't know if they're gonna be calling with queen 6 or 6-9 suited. But altogether, let's get some value from all of the top pairs, and there's a lot of draws. I make it $75 and everybody ends up folding and we take it down. So yes, that's an amazing start to a session. We're up already $780. That is pretty great. But we could do a lot better if things keep on going our way, since we're playing 2, 5, 10 and it's a super action table. So hopefully we could keep on running good. Let's move on to the next hand. Now we got pocket 9s in the hijack. Under than 1 limps, under than 2 makes it 25. And I said just a call here. Pocket 10s definitely I'll be 3-betting, but with not that many people after me 3-betting, I'm happy just trying to go to a flop with pocket 9s. So that's what I do, and a button and big blind call. So 5 ways to a flop. Flop comes 6, queen 6, so not the best. So multi-way, I'm done with it, but it checks around. Turn is a 3. Now the big blind bets, but just $20. Under than 1 calls, under than 2 calls onto us. And yeah, I don't expect my hand to be good that often, but for the price he's giving us, it just doesn't have to. So I call, button folds. So 4 ways to a river, that's pretty bad. It's a king, so yeah, if I was good on a turn, I doubt I'm good now. But it checks to me, so I check back, and our pocket 9s are good somehow. So we take down a spot that's actually a decent size, so very happy with it. Let's move on. Now we're in the button with ace jack off. Under than 1, the action player makes it 15. He gets the hijack and cut off the call. And yeah, I don't want to call here and go multi-way. And under than 1, he's been raising almost every hand, so I know how wide he can be. And a caller shouldn't be too strong either. So I feel if I raise here, I could take it down a lot. So I make it $60. That was a mistake, since in position, I usually make it 45. Plus the callers, that would have been 75. But yeah, in the moment, I do make it 60. It folds under than 1, that does call. So does the hijack, cut off fold. So 3 ways to a flop. Flop comes queen 4-4. And I think it's interesting, since under than 1 leads out for $70. Folds to us, and I just didn't think he would be doing this with a queen. So I felt like maybe he had a 4, or very likely as well, there's some draw, there's a flush draw. And yeah, with the ace of diamonds, backdoor straight draw, and overcard, I'm not folding against this player especially, so I do call. Turn is a 6, and now he bets 110. That just made me feel that I was right that he didn't have a queen. I felt like if he had that, he'd definitely be betting bigger on this turn. So yeah, in a spot that I feel like my ace may be good, and if I hit an ace or a jack, I feel like most likely I am for sure, I do call. River is a 9, he checks, and here's where I definitely think I made a big mistake. In a moment, I felt like my ace high is good a good amount of time, so I don't need the bluff, but he is a pretty crazy player, so I wouldn't be surprised if he's just leading out with medium strength hands like a 4 or some pocket pair. In this spot, I don't even need to bet big. Could do half pot, maybe a little bit over that, since that's what I would have done with a queen, just in case he does have one of those medium straight hands that I most likely would get to fold, since he is sticky, but in the spot, it just looks like I have a queen. So yeah, I wish I would have done that, but in the moment, I do check back and see the bad news when he flips over 4-6 suited. So yeah, he flopped 2-pair, improved to a better 2-pair on the turn, but yeah, we did not get that to full pre-flop, even though we 3-bet him, and he takes it down. Now on a hijack with ace-queen off, under than 1 makes it 20, under than 2 calls, and yeah, on this table, people have been playing pretty wide. I don't want to go super multi-way, and with a caller behind, I think 3-betting here does pretty well, so I make it $80, and get the cutoff, big blind, under than 1 and under than 2 to call. So definitely not what I was expecting when 3-betting, going 5 ways in a 3-bet pot. Flop comes 4, ace 4. It checks to me, and so damn multi-way. Usually I would expect people to have too many 4s, but especially the big blind, he's the action player. He definitely can. As you've seen before, what he called me with ace 4 suited. So he definitely could have basically almost any 4. I do decide to paw control and check. Cutoff checks as well, so let's see the turn. Turn is pretty bad. It's a 3 of clubs, so it brings in the flush. And 5-2 is a straight that definitely the big blind could have if it's suited. And he does bet. He makes it $250. Folds to me, and yeah, I just, in the moment, I know this player. He's been literally raising 7 deuce. He's been pretty crazy, but I just don't think I thought this through too much, because if it was just us, I think I have to call. But he had 2 players left after him that still had to talk, that they could have plenty strong hands, since on the flop, they're always checking to me. So under than 1 and under than 2, really didn't have any information on them. They're always checking the flop, so they could have a 4, they could have a flush. So the fact that he bet that big with them still left to talk should have definitely gave me some alarms going off. But in the moment, all I was thinking about is this player is so damn crazy. Can I really fold my ace queen to him? And I did not think I could. So I do call, cut off fold, so heads up to a river. River is pretty bad again, a 7. So now any club is a flush, and he doesn't slow down. He bets $300. And yeah, I should just be folding here. I feel like I'm losing already a lot on the turn. And if he was bluffing maybe with something, well, it's most likely a club, and he hit it on the river. But yeah, I have some bad news. I think I just lost my mind a little bit with this player, and it's not the first time. One of my biggest losing sessions was against this player, where I think I lost $1,600, where I just couldn't find a fold against him. So I definitely got to work on my game playing against maniacs. I feel like sometimes I just know what they could be bluffing with, so I just become myself a calling station that basically ends up making me lose money, and they actually sometimes even, beat me at the game because I can't find a fold. So yeah, definitely I got to work on this, since I always think I should be folding here, even on the turn. I think a good amount of time. But in the moment, I do call, and of course see the bad news when he flips over a queen high flush that he actually hit it on the turn. That makes sense with that big size bet. And yeah, he takes it down. And yeah, I got to be honest, this hand definitely got to me. With the previous one, I just lost all of my profit. And, if I had bad beats, I think I got decent amount used to it, that it doesn't affect me too much. But this was just all me. This was my mistake. I just shouldn't have lost so much money in these spots. Like, this was just me becoming a crazy calling station. So yeah, I'm just trying my best now to focus, not go on tilt, because now we're down $50 and we were up a good amount. We ran great, and our mistakes just made us lose all of it. So we got a lot of time to go, though. This table is amazing. So I'm just trying to focus, is say, like, let's just imagine we just sat down now. This table is great. We got plenty of time. Let's focus. We can make a lot of money with these players. And yeah, let's move on to the next hand. Now I got pocket 7s in the low jack. The struggle's going on, so I make it $30. Folds to the small blind action player, and he 3-bets us to 100. Folds to us, and this is the first time I see him 3-bet out of position, so it does feel pretty strong. But against him, we're both pretty deep, so if I hit a set, I definitely think I could get it all in. I think it'd be profitable, so I do call. Flop comes 5-5-8, and doesn't even seem like he's looking at the board. He just bets $140. That's definitely on a bigger size for a 3-bet pot, and in the moment, just felt like the typical old man coffee that they just 3-bet and bet big, big, big with their big pocket pairs. And it did feel like one of those spots that he's just going to be barreling turn and river. And if I call a flop, I just think I got to hold on and call turn and river. And in the moment, yeah, I hadn't seen him 3-bet pre-flop, as I said, out of position. So it felt pretty strong. And after losing so much money back to back, I just felt like I could find a better spot. And I do fold. And later, I see him, and he just starts 3-betting every single hand. Not every single one, but very often and out of position. So yeah, maybe this was a little too tight against him, but we'll never know. Let's move on. Now into low jack with ace king off. Underdone limps. Underdone 2 makes it $30. That's definitely on a bigger side, but yeah, with ace king off, I'm almost 3-betting. I make it 90. It folds back to him, and he calls, so heads up to a flop. Flop comes jack 8-5, so we don't hit, but it's pretty dry. In a 3-bet pot, I'm just always putting a small c-bet, so when he checks, I make it $50, and see the pretty good news when he does fold, so we take it down. Now we go card diff for a good amount of time. That is definitely frustrating. It's a super action table. Just people are putting piles of money all around us, and we're just having to fold. That definitely doesn't help. This session, I gotta say, is one of the hardest mentally sessions I've had in a good amount of time. And yeah, it is what it is. Let's move on to the next hand. Now I got pocket 8s in hijack. I make it 15, get a cutoff. Small blind call, not a big line. Aggressive reg makes it 90. This is the 4th time in a row I get 3-bet. 2 that you've seen and 2 that I folded. And yeah, with so many callers, I think it'd be pretty wide. So I do call. Now the cutoff goes all in for $550. Yeah, cold cold call and then a jam is super strong, and I don't have to think too much about it since the big blind goes all in himself. That's over $1,000. So yeah, I just fold. The cutoff had ace king, and the big blind really had a hand this time. He had pocket kings. Now it's our turn to have the premium pocket kings under the gun one. I make it 15, and please, they've been 3-betting me nonstop. Please do it this time. Action player in the cutoff just calls. Aggressive reg in a button just calls. God damn it. And so does the small blind. So 4 ways to a flop. It makes things worse. Flop comes 7, 9, ace. So yeah, so multi-win. It checks to me. I'm just checking and it checks around. Turn is another 7. It checks to me again. And I think just checking here since someone could be slow playing a weak ace or they could have a 7. So that's what I do. It checks to the button and he does bet. He makes it $40. And yeah, just against him, I definitely consider calling, but the small blind calls himself. So yeah, with someone betting and calling, I fold, everybody else folds. And at the end, small blind had ace 4, and that was good. Just the button was bluffing with a weaker pocket pair. Now we got pocket queens in the cutoff. The straddle is going on, under the gun 2 limp, so I make it $40 and get the small blind and under the gun to call as action player, and so does the limper. So you go 4 ways to a flop. Flop comes 3, 7, 10, and now things get super weird because small blind needs out for $40. Under the gun calls, and now under the gun 2, he puts his cards forward, lets them go, and then says all in. But the thing is, he put his cards 2 forward and of course let him go. So it looked like a fold, and the dealer grabbed them and threw him in the muck. So they called the floor, and as it was expected, he says that it's too late. If he pushes his cards forward and lets him go, that is just a fold. And now that they're in the muck, they just can't take it back. So he just has to fold. And of course, he's very upset. And now it's on to us. And I make a very big mistake here, I think, because I just call. And I think this has to do, by this time, I was super out of it. And I was trying to calculate the pot. I was trying to figure out how big of a size this lead was. And I was thinking as if it wasn't a straddle pot. So it felt pretty big. And I play a lot with this player. And I know he leads out a lot of time with very strong hands like sets. I've seen him do it various times. And on this board, there's not that many draws. So I was thinking that he made a big size bet multi-way on a not that draw heavy board, so it felt like more value. So yeah, I just called, but as you see, it's actually a very small size bet. So I definitely think I should raise, especially since under the gun called and under the gun 2 went all in. So he very likely had a set or 2 pair himself, blocking on the small blind from having a strong hand. But yeah, in the moment, I just call. Turn is a 9. Now the small blind bets $175. Under the gun folds, it's on to us. And this bet felt very strong. It's not a huge size compared to the pot, but for this game, it is big money-wise. So I did feel very strong. And on the flop, he got 2 callers. So barreling on this turn just felt very strong. And this turn is just pretty bad. Brings in a lot of 2 pairs, a lot of gut shots that he may be betting small on the flop, just trying to get a cheap price to see the turn. And if he was doing it with sets or 2 pairs himself, that he sometimes does it with, even though I think it'd make a bigger size, but it could be. I'm just behind so many hands, and in the moment, I just felt like it was super strong, him betting this size on the turn, that I do find a pretty tight fold. I do hate how I played this hand. I just should be raising it on the flop, but it is what it is. He later said that he had Jack 8 for a gut shot that hit it on the turn, but yeah, we'll never know. Let's move on to the next hand. After this hand, the action player leaves, so that definitely changes the dynamics a lot. He just was bringing so much action to the table. But yeah, after that, definitely things feel a lot more calm. That, yeah, it's not the best when you're down and trying to make it back, that the player that's putting in the most money leaves. But yeah, we're almost done anyway, so let's go to the last few hands. We're in the cutoff with ace jack off. Low jack limp, so I make it 20, and only he calls, so heads up to a flop. Flop is 3, queen 10, so we got a gut shot and an overcard. So when he checks, I think it's good enough to bet. I make it $20 and he calls. Turn is a 9. That's decent since now we have an open-ended, but he leads out for $90. That is huge overbet. So yeah, we do have an open-ended, but there's 2 flush draws on the board. And if we do hit it, it's a one-liner anyway. So I don't think we'll get much value. I just don't think we're going to price. And maybe he's doing this with a straight that's just scared of 2 flush draws. So yeah, I just fold, and he does flip over king jack for turn straight, and he takes it down. And that brings us to the last hand of the session. We're under the gun with pocket 10s. I make it 15, get under the gun 1, under the gun 2, and big line of calls, so 4 ways to a flop. Flop comes king high, so yeah, when it texted me, I'm just checking multi-way. 101 makes it 40, 102 raises to 140. So yeah, when big blind folds, I'm just folding. Let's end this session. Definitely one of the worst ones I've had in a long time, especially mentally. Sessions don't usually get that much to me, but this one definitely had. And I think it has to do too that the last few weeks we haven't had any great sessions. So seeming like we were going to have a really good one and just turning around so drastically, and big part because we played bad, so it's our fault, definitely got to me so much. So yeah, let's just call it a session. Let's rack up, head out, and see how we did. All right, so we are in the car in the parking lot of the casino, and this is actually not the same day that I played. I did film that day, but I don't know, I was so out of it. I don't know if I accidentally deleted it or what happened, but here we are weeks after, and actually I had a great session today that I filmed, so I'm definitely in a very different mood. And I'm just gonna put here how we ended up that day because I don't remember. I just do want to talk about it. That was definitely one of the worst sessions I played in a while. It happens, you know, and it has to do with that player, because my worst session, I think as I said it on it, was against him, where I just couldn't find a fold. So I definitely got to work on how I play against maniacs, because you know, poker is all about exploiting the other player, and I'm definitely not doing that correctly against these guys, because I just go in calling station mode and not being aware of the actions, how strong they look in some spots, because even if they're crazy and they're playing a bunch of hands, there was some spots that they still look super strong, that they're not gonna bluff in that spot. Like it was the one where I just should have found a fold when I had the ace queen. So yeah, definitely something I'm keeping an eye on, making sure I don't go in calling station mode. That is kind of what happens to me when I go on tilt. Everyone plays differently. I feel the tilt affects people differently. I feel it affects me in a way that I just become a calling station and I don't believe anybody. So when I do start calling too much, I definitely gotta try to become more aware and keep track of my actions so it doesn't get too out of hand like it happened in this session. That yeah, not my proudest session, but yeah, thank you guys for watching. You probably didn't learn too much from this, but you know, I'm human, I'll make mistakes, and part of being a poker player, you know, is accepting that and not letting it affect you too much. That's kind of one of my affirmations that I do when I drive here, is just saying that, you know I'm gonna make mistakes. It's my goal of once I make my mistake is try my best not let it affect me and cause mistakes in the future, because a mistake that's done, we can't change it. But what we can change is that doesn't mess with us causing future mistakes. We can try our best not to make them in the future. So what's done is done. And again, thank you guys for watching. If you haven't subscribed, I'd appreciate it if you do. It helps out a lot. I'm trying to build these subscribers. If you could like the video, comment. Always happy to talk about the hands, and I'll see you guys next week.